One time I bought eggs. I do not store my eggs at room temperature because my kitchen is always very hot. Always very hot, especially when I'm cooking. So when I buy eggs, I store them in the refrigerator. So one time I bought eggs. We've eaten most of the eggs. I had just about 5 or 6 left, okay? And it did not cross my mind that those eggs would go bad, especially when they were in the refrigerator. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. How have you all been? I hope you've been well. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ngozi Kelly. I film about all things lifestyle, homemaking, and motherhood. Today guys, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 tips, and these are things I usually do to keep my kitchen odor free. Now, like I said before, the kitchen is the part of the home where we prepare all types of food with all kinds of smell. So there's bound to be a certain kind of pleasant smell coming from the kitchen, especially when you are cooking. But when the smell in your kitchen becomes offensive, then that is not so good. So guys, let's get into the video today. So tip number 1, which is of course a no-brainer, is ventilate. Ventilate your kitchen. Make sure you have a good ventilation going on in your kitchen. Now, in my house where I live, we do not have a very good ventilation system. So the first thing I do every morning when I wake up, I open up all the windows and then I open up the doors. Now, because of the part of the world where we live in is usually very hot, and we have a lot of flies around. Like here in Africa, flies are next door neighbor, right? When you open up your doors, especially when you're cooking, they come visiting. So what we did, we made an extra door netting and we put it at the door. So what I do every day is once I wake up in the morning, I open up all the windows and I open up all the doors to let fresh air come in. Now, some people have fans in their kitchen. That's okay because it helps to ventilate the room. Some people have air conditioners. Air conditioners, they don't really bring in air into the room. They just help to cool the air. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad idea to have an air conditioning system in your kitchen. You can have that by all means if you can afford it. But it does not bring in fresh air into the kitchen. It only helps to cool the air in the kitchen. If you have a window, if you have an extra door in the kitchen, it is a very good idea for you to open it up and let in air. That way, the smell in your kitchen stays fresh all the time. Now, tip number 2, constantly flush your sink with boiling hot water. Now, the sink is another part of the house where smell is bound to come from. This is because we know that there's a pipe connecting from our sink into the septic tank outside where all our waste go into. And inside our sink, we wash things like fish, we wash meat, we cook beans, and we drain the water off there. And these things, like we know, they have smell. Like if they are not controlled, they can leave a certain kind of smell in your kitchen. So what I do once every week, I boil water. I make sure it's boiling hot and I pour it directly into the drainage, that part, that hole where water goes out from. I pour it right into the hole. Now this will help to unclog the pipes, especially when you know we're constantly washing our plates and our dishes and pouring stuff like oil and food into the sink. So sometimes our pipes can get clogged. So when you pour hot water, like very hot water into the pipes, it helps to unclog the pipe and it also helps to kill germs. And that way, the air coming in or the smell coming in from the pipe is not that offensive. And then that takes us to tip number 3, which is of course deodorize. I pour a disinfectant, okay, which can also act as a deodorizer. I pour it into my sink every now and then, okay? And what this does is it helps to keep the air, it helps to disinfect, and it helps to keep the air coming from the pipes fresh. Now, tip number 4, store all leftovers into the container and into a refrigerator. Now, let me give you an example. When you cook beans is one food that when you cook it and you ignore it without properly storing it, it can easily get bad. When you cook beans and you leave it, when you have leftovers, it's a very good idea for you to put it in a container and store it in a fridge or in a freezer. That way, it helps to keep your leftover fresh. Now, when you have leftovers and you leave them overnight on the stove, when you wake up the next day, especially if it's a kind of meal that goes bad easily, you're bound to have that smell in your kitchen, especially when it has gone bad. So it's always a very good idea to store your leftovers in a container and put it away in a fridge or in a freezer. Now, tip number 5 is regularly empty your trash. Regularly empty your trash. Now, in my house, I have 2 trash cans. I have a big trash can and I have a small trash can. Now, the big trash can, we use it to dispose of every material that is inorganic, okay? Then the smaller trash can, we use it to dispose of everything that is organic, that is bound to rot and invariably smell. Now, what I do is whenever I'm cooking, I wash my fish, I wash my meat, I cut my onions, all those things that we know that are bound to decay and smell, I throw them away inside that smaller dustbin. And once I finish cooking, or once we finish eating and we wash our dishes and remove all the crumbs and all the wasteover, all the leftover in our plates, we throw them inside the dustbin and we dispose of it. I try not to let it stay overnight in the kitchen. Well, sometimes I forget. Other times I'm just too lazy to take it out, but I try to dispose of it. I try to not let it stay in the kitchen till the next day. So I think that's a very good idea. If you do not think that having 2 trash cans in your kitchen is not a very good idea, then you can try to at least empty your trash regularly. So that way you do not have the smell coming out from your trash, smell of those food items that have started to decay. You do not have them coming out from your trash into the kitchen and invariably into the entire atmosphere or air in the house. Now, tip number 6, which is of course regularly check your microwaves, your oven. Some people store food in their microwave and in their oven, okay? But most importantly, your refrigerator and your freezer for foods that may have started to go bad. I'll tell you a story. One time I bought eggs. I do not store my eggs at room temperature because my kitchen is always very hot, especially when I'm cooking. So when I buy eggs, I store them in the refrigerator. So one time I bought eggs. We've eaten most of the eggs. I had just about 5 or 6 left, okay? And it did not cross my mind that those eggs would go bad, especially when they were in the refrigerator. So one day I walk into the kitchen, someone had stepped out of the kitchen. I think they opened the refrigerator. The person opened the refrigerator and took out something from the refrigerator. And as soon as that person walked out, I stepped in and this smell hit me in the face. I was like, where is this smell coming from? And I started to look around. I could not find anything that could have gone bad that was smelling. My dustbin, my trash can was clean. There was nothing that was smelling. I went to that corner. The smell was not coming in from there. I was like, where is this smell coming from? It was a bit offensive. So throughout that day, I didn't perceive the smell again. So the next day, I come back into the kitchen. This time, I open up the refrigerator and I take out something and I close it. As soon as I closed it, I perceived that smell again. And this time, the smell had become worse than it was the previous day. I was like, what is smelling? What is this smell? What is this smell? So I was like, okay, I started perceiving this smell when I closed the fridge. So I opened up the refrigerator again and I sniffed inside. I couldn't perceive any smell. I opened up the freezer. I couldn't perceive any smell. I was like, what is this smell? And as soon as I closed the refrigerator door, that smell, I started to get it again. I was like, what is this? So I opened up the door and I started to pick up the items one after the other and I started to smell them. I was like, what has gone bad? My mind did not go to the eggs because you know eggs have shell. So I was like, is it possible, do you ever think, is it possible for smell to penetrate and come from the egg inside that strong? So it didn't cross my mind to check the eggs. So I smelled every other thing. I ignored the eggs. Eventually, somehow, my face went to the side, the handle, the door where we usually keep eggs. And that smell came. I was like, how can it be an egg smelling? So I started picking out the eggs one after the other. I would pick them up, I would smell them, and I wouldn't get the smell. And eventually, I picked up one egg, and before I even brought it close to my nose, the smell, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, how is it that something that was sitting inside the refrigerator got bad? Probably that egg wasn't good initially when I got it, and it stayed inside the refrigerator despite the temperature in the refrigerator, and it became worse. So I think it's a very good idea to regularly check your refrigerator and your freezer for food items that may have gone bad. That brings us to the end of this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you did learn a thing or two. Please let me know which of these tips I mentioned today, which of them do you already do? And also let me know in the comment section, because we're all here to learn. Also let me know, what do you do to keep your kitchen odor free? I'd like to know. Thank you so much. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate your presence here. If you enjoy this content, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, and once you do, turn on your notifications so that you will get notified every other time I upload a new video. I'll see you soon in my next one. Bye-bye.